So I've been working in the XR production and tech space for the past 4 years. And just like all of you, I've been holding on tight to the roller coaster. During my time as the vice president of Legend, I had the opportunity to produce over a dozen VR projects, 4 of which, I'm fortunate to say, I've gone on to win a Telly or a Lumiere Award. I also managed an investment fund in which we identified and evaluated early stage opportunities in the XR tech and media sectors. So I got to dig a little deeper into the trenches of many companies in this space. I'd like to start off by giving a brief overview of an XR project that I recently produced, and then we'll transition to a few specific industry examples for VR, AR, and MR. So 2 years ago, Joshua invited me here to speak about the future of interactive storytelling.
That room looks so familiar.
I just completed writing and producing Stan Lee's first VR experience for Comic-Con and was in the planning and pre-production stages of a VR documentary. I was working with Jonathan Griffith, a highly accomplished climber and photographer, to help him realize his dreams of transporting audiences to the most remote and unattainable destinations across the globe. In this case, the destination was Mount Everest. So Jonathan had checked the box on the setting, but also had a touching and riveting story to tell. The premise for this experience was documenting world-famous climber Yuli Steck as he attempted to summit Mount Everest and neighboring Mount Lhotse. This was a feat that had never been accomplished before. Sadly and tragically, Yuli was fatally injured while training for this climb on a neighboring mountain a few weeks prior to the start of production. After this unexpected tragedy, Yuli's Sherpa Tenji, pledged to attempt to carry out this mission in Yuli's honor. During our development of this project, we challenged ourselves to find ways to organically incorporate as much of the emerging tech and distribution platforms as we could. Our goal was to be able to tell this story beyond just a traditional 360 video experience. So I wanted to use this example for my talk tonight because 2 years ago at this same event, I met a producer from Vulcan Media, Susan Grella, and we began quickly working together to branch the VR experience into one for a dome that Vulcan and Paul Allen had been in early stages of development on. That dome would eventually come to be known as the Holodome. So as I mentioned earlier, this project was initially conceived as a cinematic VR feature. We have planned to create many different 360 deliverables, ranging from 2K mono web streams, all the way up to 8K, 3D, 360 VR renders for the high-end consoles and motion-controlled 4D viewing platforms, like the Positron Voyager. After meeting Susan at this event and collaborating with Vulcan on an experience for the Holodome, we now have the opportunity to expand this project beyond VR. These new cross-platform tech and distribution opportunities open up many new possibilities, including integrating haptics and sonic audio, as well as potential wind and temperature optics. To maximize the haptic integration, we carved out extra production days in a zone which was known to generate avalanches. Jonathan loved that idea. Actually, that was his idea. He sat under the mountain for 3 days waiting for an avalanche. The rumble of the snow barreling down the mountain provided us with an authentic use for that technology. For the climate control, the inherent nature of the different elevations provided an extreme temperature range for us to integrate this feature. We also had a few moments of extreme wind that allowed us to integrate a combination of haptics, temperature control, and forced air technologies. The Holodome projected at 9.2K, which forced us to reevaluate our production and post-production strategies. First and foremost, we needed a camera that could deliver at that resolution. It was also durable and portable enough to make the trek to the summit of Mount Everest. We eventually ended up partnering with Google to use their eHalo camera. Another camera system we had considered early on was the Z-Cam. After a few weeks of filming the trek, Jonathan returned with massive amounts of data, terabytes upon terabytes of data. We were able to utilize the Google Jump Cloud for previewing selects and getting rough stitch plates back rather quickly. This was another big advantage of shooting with the Halo. We choose to work at a 2K 30 FPS proxy for editorial, nadir patches, and a rough color grade. Once the edit was locked, we downloaded the 8K stitched master renders from the Jump assembler, and then converted them to EXRs for the final project master assembly. So since we were delivering a 2D and a 3D version of the project, as well as different deliverables for headsets, consoles, and dome, it was necessary to tweak color, rotation, FX, and audio separately for each different deliverable. The entire post-production process took roughly 2 months to complete, and in addition to creating deliverables for the holodome at 9.2K mono, we also rendered 2K, 4K, and 8K 3D deliverables. Another distribution format we explored early on was the use of 360 live stream. Our goal for that format was to document the production of the trek. Since the ROI for that type of distribution is limited, this was primarily going to be used as a marketing strategy. Unfortunately, and after many failed attempts, the streaming connectivity was not ready for the challenges of Everest. We eventually had to forego this option for the project. As for an AR integration, we wanted to create an intro that was fun and could easily be shared. So we thought, what if we could turn your living room into a snow globe and watch a miniature climber scale your walls, right? Why not? So the AR concept entailed launching a mobile app and then scanning your surrounding environment. Once scanned, snow begins to fall in that environment and a miniature climber appears on a target object that is a minimum of a 12-inch vertical. So it's sort of like a chair or a television. The miniature climber then begins to scale this vertical object until it reaches the peak, at which point the 360 video then begins to play on the mobile device. This was just a mock-up. We actually wanted to use the real climber in miniature form appearing in your environment. We'd use an augmented experience like this as a funnel marketing strategy to raise awareness for the project and drive traffic to the dome or the console, both of which are pay to play. And finally, on this topic, I'm excited to share that Everest VR was selected as the premier piece of content for the launch of the holodome at the TEDx conference this past April, and has since been featured at every major VR festival. You can find more info at everestvirtualreality.com. Okay, now I'd like to transition to a few quick examples of how the rest of the entertainment industry is successfully using AR, VR, and MR as part of their content distribution and tech strategies. So has anybody been to Dave & Buster's? Okay, all right, a few. Have you tried the, okay, one? So Dave & Buster's has combined animatronic seating with motion control technology and 3D 360 virtual reality interactive gaming experiences for big IP such as Jurassic World, Star Trek, and Men in Black. Why has this been successful? It combines recognizable high-value IP with good production quality. It utilizes a distribution network that already had a pre-existing or proactive consumer base. These experiences benefited from high-cost joint marketing campaigns co-sponsored by Dave & Buster's and the movie studios, and it successfully socialized a predominantly solitary experience. Say that 5 times fast. Like a ride in itself. So the next example is a successful VR tech use case, in which Jon Favreau recently used virtual VR production techniques to film the new Lion King movie. The Lion King used VR technology as its main method to film the entire movie. All of the sets were constructed as 360 virtual CG environments which provided the filmmakers all of their familiar live-action tools, just in digital form. The filmmakers used traditional camera and shooting methods, but instead were seeing the digital world through their cameras and viewfinders. They did this by broadcasting infrared signals back to the digital cameras in the virtual set, where the shots were then mirrored and recorded within the game engine. It's made it much easier and quicker to create sheets and adjustments for lighting, framing, action, and camera movements. Now to touch upon two examples of successful AR use cases in the entertainment industry. This first one is probably by far the most recognizable, and I'm sure the one that most people are most sick about hearing about. Sorry to do this to you. So I recently finished executive producing the 3D conversion for Pokemon Detective Pikachu. And prior to that, I had no idea what a Pokemon was. Oh, thank you. Did you see it in 3D? Oh, all right. So, spoiler alert, turns out all the characters are Pokemon. I learned that the hard way when I asked the director which one of the characters was Pokemon and when he'd be making an appearance in the film. I'll never do that again. Fortunately, he laughed. He thought I was joking. So why has Pokemon Go been so successful? For one, it's free to play the base level. They charge for in-app purchases and extra features. It uses a mobile-based app platform, which has provided the widest reach. Simple game design with CG Pokemon integration. And it's a unique and sticky concept based around the most successful global IP of all time. So just the AR app alone has generated over $3 billion in revenue, more than most feature films generate. And lastly, it's social, shareable, and competitive. This next example is of a successful AR tech that was used in the filming of the Nutcracker. VFX supervisor Max Wood used the NCAM reality system to visualize the backgrounds and set extensions in camera while the action was being captured against traditional green screens. So this system provided a customizable augmented reality platform that enabled photorealistic virtual graphics through real-time camera tracking. This provided the filmmakers with a live previs of the environments, set extensions, and CGI elements directly in camera while shooting. So the first row of thumbnails up there, that's what you actually saw on set, the green screen and blue screen with the actors acting over that. The director, through his viewfinder, was seeing the NCAM previs comps in real time. And then the last thumbnail is the final visual effects for the project. So other notable productions that have used augmented virtual production techniques include Walt Disney's Solo, A Star Wars Story, and Warner Brothers' Fantastic Beasts. My final two examples are of successful MR use cases. I'll start with another widely known platform that combines MR tech with Hollywood content. So whereby VR places you in a virtual world, and AR puts virtual elements into the real world, MR is a blend of AR and VR where both the real and the virtual are seamlessly integrated. The Void's hyper-reality experiences combine virtual and augmented reality with sensory elements to completely immerse fans in the world of their favorite IP. It was just announced last week that the Void closed another $20 million in financing from James Murdoch to further expand the platform. So they've been great at consistently raising money. Has anybody done the Void? We've done them all. So what has made the Void so successful? For one, they've raised enough money to produce proper high-quality content. Big Hollywood IP that can only be experienced on the Void's platform. High concept, well executed, and it fully immerses users into the world of the IP and integrates social gaming elements. And finally, I'd like to touch on some successful MR prod tech. And don't be thrown by the AR in the name. AR wall is a technology that combines live action elements with virtual elements into a mixed reality virtual production format. So whereby the NCAM system still used augmented green screen production, the AR wall completely replaces green screen production entirely. It achieves this by using a tracker and sensors to project a virtual scene hosted inside a game engine onto an LED wall. This can then be used to shoot an in-camera composite in real time. What gets captured in the camera typically requires no additional post. So in addition to completely replacing the green screen, it also costs nearly 50% less than replacing the green screen in post. An added bonus is that the LED wall casts dynamic light onto the characters and the set. And NBC's Night Flyer series has used AR wall to completely replace green screen production on an increasing number of their shots. So what are some of the common definitions of success for these XR content distribution examples? They're all active experiences as opposed to passive entertainment. They all include an interactive gaming component. They all piggyback off of the brand, off the big brand recognition and marketing of the big studio's IP. And lastly, I wanted to end with a few key challenges that the XR industry still faces. Number one is inadequate network speeds and bandwidth. 5G will no doubt be one of the biggest accelerators of growth for XR. High cost for quality production and risky investment. Investment capital and deal flow have cooled quite substantially over the last 12 months. We're seeing a fewer number of companies securing the majority of financing. High cost for hardware. Consumers have limited accessibility to high-end computers, headsets, and tech. Joshua mentioned this, a lack of good quality content in the market. And unfortunately, the market has become flooded with an abundance of poor quality content. And consumers are still having a hard time finding the good stuff. And when you find the bad stuff, you're pretty much turned off for quite a while. Fragmented distribution. Each platform tends to have their own tech specs, hardware, and content. And entertainment industry adoption versus distraction. So what I mean by this is traditional film, TV, and video game creators, directors, and producers typically view XR as ancillary experiences as a distraction to their traditional productions. Often these experiences are greenlit as an afterthought and lack the proper time, cost, and attention required to get a good quality product. And in closing, Hollywood has always been split between old school filmmakers who have mastered the artistry of their traditional tools and futurists who are constantly pushing the boundaries and finding new ways to integrate emerging tech. With younger audiences demanding more interactive experiences, XR tech integration will continue to play a leading role in redefining a new norm for traditional film, TV, and video game production and distribution. Thanks so much for being an amazing audience.